Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Ophelia and thank you guys so much for joining me today. I realized after I posted the last video that I guess I'm feeling in a bit of a creative rut. So I thought I'd change things up a little bit today and do some of my painted papers where I just create fodder, if you will, for my journals. And I woke up this morning feeling a bit just, I don't know, wonky, or I've got a headache and the weather's very weird. So I've been up here all day kind of putzing around and not really feeling like doing much of anything. So I thought I'd just turn on my camera and instead of playing in my journal and being in that same rut where I just do the same thing over and over again, and that just kind of, I don't know. But I thought I'd change things up a bit today and paint some papers just to have some fodder in my for my journals. So I've grabbed a bunch of paper here, and this is just computer paper and some other kind of ledger paper, and then a bunch of pages from dictionaries and encyclopedias. So I'm gonna paint on these, and then I've got a bunch of stuff here on my desk, so let's just try to run through the materials that I have. Just my palette of paints, and I've just kind of poured these out in advance. All of these are Lukas, starting here with titanium white, Indian yellow, turquoise, some fluorescent magenta, rose, carmine, fern, and light gray. I'm going to use those. I've got a couple of stencils here that I plan to use, and these three, I'll leave the links below. But so I've got some stencils that I plan to use with some inks that I've put, these are just acrylic inks that I've put in some spray bottles, or like the Marabu inks. I've got some alcohol inks that I plan to use, as well as some Caran, and these are just Neocolor 2s, some watercolor pencils, and I just keep them all in this box here, but just some watercolor pencils that I want to play with. And I'm also going to use some gesso, and I have here some oil pastels that I'm going to play with as well. So I think I will walk us through how I do this and then maybe speed it up a bit later once we get going. But I am going to clear some of this stuff off. Oh, and also I'm just going to use here just a regular pencil that I have, and some colored pencils that I will pull down from my shelf that's over here. And I will try to remember to insert a picture of what my shelf looks like, so that just because it's got my entire collection of pencils that I keep out over there. So I'm going to clear some of this stuff out of the way, and I'm going to get started. Alrighty, the first thing I do is I've just put some gesso into this little tray, and what I'm going to do is just get some gesso on my brush, and I'm not really careful about putting gesso over the entire page, because I like the way that some of the materials will interact on the gessoed surface as opposed to the non-gesso surface. So I'll just kind of haphazardly paint these and then sit them off to the side. And I usually will end up, I guess, painting these until I run out of paint, or I just kind of get tired and we'll call it a day. But I just kind of keep going on the different papers, adding gesso pretty randomly, and I don't know if you can see this, but a lot of times I just love how it like skips some spots because I'm just kind of brushing it on without really paying any attention to how much of the surface that it covers. But it just kind of leads to some interesting effects later. So I will do this to as many of the pages as I can. Like I said, until I run out of paint, or until I just honestly get tired and call it a day, or just kind of call it quits. So just gonna play along on these. I just think that these painted papers just add something to my journal pages or the background when I'm playing around. So a lot of times I do just like to create my own ephemera. And these papers I get, we have a little store here in North Carolina, or really close to me in Durham. It's called the Scrap Exchange, and they just have a ton of things, maps, art supplies, you name it. They've got just all kinds of stuff. And so a lot of times I will just head over there and crawl around on the floor and find things to just kind of experiment with and play with in my art room. I haven't been in a while because I just find that I have so much stuff, but it's almost like a reuse center. And so people will donate things, old books and encyclopedias and art supplies or maps or floor plans, or I've even gotten like wallpaper samples and things like that, and the prices are extremely cheap. So I will go over there and just load up, if you will, on different things that I can use in my studio or in my art room. It takes me such a long time to go through all of the stuff that I get from there, that I haven't been back in months, it seems. But it is just a fun place to kind of go and just get inspired by all the stuff that you can find. So as I've been painting these, I've just been kind of throwing them off to the side on the floor so that they can dry up. And then once they are dry, I'm gonna come right back and show you guys what's next in the process. Okay, once it's all dried up, and this is actually what these papers end up looking like. It's nothing fancy, it's just me kind of playing around and scribbling around with paint. But this is the last one that I had, so I thought I would make more, and I will literally chop these guys up until the bitter end and use every single scrap of them. So that's kind of what I'm going for, and it literally is just me playing around with my materials and such. So I will just grab my pencil here and see if I can make this go a little bit better. Maybe not. I grab my pencil here, and the first thing I do is just kind of go about filling the page, making some marks. A lot of times in my work, I find that whenever I am lost or just can't figure out what to do next, mark making for me is a way to kind of bring it all back, where if I just get stuck, I immediately grab a pencil and just start making marks of any kind. All I'm doing is just filling the page, and a lot of times that will bring me back and kind of spark another idea. And maybe it's just a way to kind of waste time or stall, I'm not sure, but so I just end up filling the page, making some marks on the page, and then now it's not really a lot of pressure anymore. I also grabbed out some watercolors that I may end up using, and I found these a long time ago. They're Pro Artist Supply, not really a long time ago, but at some point last year on Amazon, I think it was. So maybe I'll play around with these a little bit, and then I literally just grab my materials and just start playing. So that's just what I will do. I'm gonna get some of these Neocolors, and I will just kind of make marks or scribbles. Nothing really fancy. And now I'm noticing I have a big bucket of Neocolors, and I just realized that every single one of these are pastel looking, but that's okay. So I'll just make marks with those. I will get some of my Inktense here and just kind of fill in with these some. Let's just do. I will also grab some colored pencils. And just make marks. And then I'll go ahead and maybe pull in some of the paints, and literally just no rhyme, no reason. I just kind of pretty much stop thinking, and just kind of put some paint on my paper here. I'm gonna grab out some of these oil pastels, and I love to come into wet paint with oil pastels. Let's get a brush and add some color with some of my watercolors. And then I just kind of keep going back and forth between paint and materials. And a lot of times I will grab just an old credit card and some white and kind of pull color that way. And then maybe drop in some alcohol ink in spots. And just see what happens. Come back with some oil pastels. And I just kind of continue playing. Usually I'll start making marks and then end up cleaning off the oil pastel with, or cleaning off the pastel on the page. Just drag some of that. And it's nothing perfect, or I'm not going for any type of perfection. I am literally, I usually do this when it's time to just change things up, or whenever I'm feeling like I'm in a bit of a rut. And then I think I'm going to take this stencil And let's do some of this. I've got some turquoise paint, and then I'll just spritz this, and I'm gonna sit this off to dry and then just move on. I think I might add a little bit of black to that in just some spaces, because I love how the black oil pastel kind of, I guess, caves out spaces in the wet paint. And then where's my brush? Let's just try some of this purple, and I will move this off, let it dry, and then I just kind of keep going until I run out of paint, or run out of ink, or just run out of motivation for the day. So I am going to move this off to the side and just keep going, randomly playing around, just creating some painted paper. thanks so much for playing around with me today as I just created a bunch of junk papers or scrap papers to just kind of have as fodder for my journal work. Hope that you're inspired to just kind of play, or even just play of any sort when you're not necessarily in the mood to create a full-on production. I just always find it just kind of helps me to get my creativity out for the day. So I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.